Hello, Bob.
How are you, Lee?
Good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good. How was
It's
your
good to
weekend?
see that. That was good. I love seeing your background because I've seen it in your podcast and stuff.
Yeah, but I took my acoustic up to a cottage this weekend and I haven't replaced it. So I got to
Yeah,
put that back. Feels like there's a piece of me missing back there.
something missing.
Yeah.
What's up with all the stickies in the background?
So I was crafting a new keynote and I was trying to find a way to make it interesting. So I actually went up to my cottage because I can't, it's just a better place to think
Yeah.
for certain kinds of work. And we have a giant window that kind of faces the lake. So all these stickies were just random ideas. I forget what the colors represent now, themes or
Yeah.
quotes or stories or something. And then that allowed me to make it a very kind of a physical, visceral experience, moving them around.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I was like, shit, now I've got to shift this thing to my home office here, and I don't have any vertical walls.
Yeah.
So
I can
I'm
see that.
just
You're like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I'm just glad that they actually have stayed up, which more than a little
Yeah.
surprised that they have.
Do you have a specific kind of typical theme, or will you work with someone and you'll craft a kind of theme for a keynote that you're working on? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of themes, and yes, I spend some time with them, and then we craft something. So I'm doing a virtual one this week, and then a like an in-person one next week, and they're probably 80% the same.
Okay. Oh,
Really
cool.
around kind of curiosity and creativity and how to embrace these things in a to stand out in an environment where everything just seems to be blended together, especially with AI. So
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk about that a little more. But let's get jump in. First off, really appreciate you taking the time. As I said, I'm kind of, I'm working on what I wish I knew kind of concept of taking that first leap or, stepping into a big role or going to be a solo entrepreneur. It's always fun because I get to throw you into the AI machine and get a little kick out of your background and history. And it looks like you've kind of had a good mix of things, but then you've been a solo entrepreneur for a while. But I love just the part-time rock god
yeah, right.
label, right? And then, so I guess, I love that kind of, you kind of put yourself into a fun like label, but also, a little bit of a rebellious theme. So I guess just tell me that moment you made the shift, or what launched you into wanting to do your own thing after being in, corporate America, and then you were in a consulting group for a while, right?
Well, I started doing my own thing for the same reason that 90% of people start their own thing. I got fired.
Oh, okay.
So that was the big thing. Now, unlike a lot of people, I did management consulting, kind of strategic consulting for the first 15 or so years of my career. So I was no stranger to, the art of consulting and selling it and pricing it and delivering it, etc. So that might have given me a big bit of a leg up. But yeah, I was let go. I was determined to prove everyone wrong. So I wanted to just go out and be a VP of customer success somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it started off great. I was, hey, after 3 or 4 rounds of interviews, you should have an offer by Friday. And then Friday comes and goes. And then week 1, week 2, week 3. And then you get some shitty email 3 weeks later that they found an internal candidate, etc. I mean, these stories are a dime a dozen. You've heard it 1,000 times.
I'm
But
living it right now.
yeah, well, there you go. Yes, it's just the most dehumanizing
Yeah.
experience that I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But so I eventually said, okay, well, maybe if that's not going to work, then I'll start a consulting business. So I incorporated it, and I found some people willing to take a chance on me because I had a fairly good network and they knew I was a
Yeah.
smart guy that had some experience, picked up a couple of contracts, but just really couldn't make a go of it. So I had to go back and get a real job. And then 4 or 5 years later, I got another chance, and that's when it took off a little bit better. So I don't know, I wish I could tell you it was a well-orchestrated,
Yeah.
strategic, linear
Super
progression.
easy. Yeah.
It's been bumpy and all over the place, and it's just about timing sometimes.
Yeah, no, and perseverance too. So you mean, okay, so then I guess yeah, I guess looking back on that story, and the journey that you've been in, what have been some of the kind of key moments or lessons learned? I mean, the first time versus maybe the second time, and maybe it is just timing, but why were you successful your second time going out and getting a job? Was it changing your expectations and things you needed? What were some of the things that you kind of went through during that journey to then be able to, or I guess lessons learned the first part to second part, maybe?
Yeah, I think part of it is probably having the courage to be specific about what you're good at, or what I was good at, because when you're starting out and you've got bills to pay, I had 2 young kids at home. I kind of did anything that somebody would ask me to do, and I'd get emails or phone calls that say, Bob, I know this isn't exactly what you do, but we need somebody to do this, and we've got this much money. Would you be willing to do it? And I said, sure, why not? That sounds interesting enough. And I did that for a while. I had a couple of good years, but it was long hours because I was figuring out a whole bunch of stuff for the first time, and it didn't really align with what I love to do or was even really great at.
Yeah.
So over time, I said, okay, I think I can actually charge more if I focus on the things that I'm uniquely talented at and helping the people that I'm really well suited to serve. But I really think that's honestly something that everyone has to go through, because you sort of have to start off with that giant, market of trying to figure out what you're good at and try a few different things, because everybody talks about, hey, know your ideal customer and get super specific. And it's like, yeah, that's
define a customer journey.
Yeah, exactly. And that's scary as shit when you got bills to pay and, so, my journey is probably a lot like other people you'll talk to.
No, I definitely noticed that. And like I said, I'm kind of living that experience. I mean, I stepped in from being VP of CS for a while at a couple of companies, chief customer officer. And so I've always played the post-sales guy, or either business systems or operations, and then stepped into the CEO role for a couple of years. And then it's been a hard one. First off, most people don't want to talk to you if you have a CEO title in your history, because they're like, you're just going to want too much. This is below you. Like, no, it's more about the purpose and the people and the team and what you get to solve. But I think that the idea of it's definitely hard. And that focus point, I've definitely been seeing a lot of posts about people being too generalists and trying to be uber focused. And it's not easy. I mean, just to try and, it seems like I was just reading, jumped into some fractional groups and then hearing people's stories, and, the fractional thing seems to be taking off quite a lot. But it is also, again, you got to know what you're good at. I agree with you 100%. So with that, and like thinking about, I've noticed a couple of your posts lately, one, I really admire the way that you're very open about your journey and what you're going through. And you seem to live in a beautiful place, because the pictures that you share of your hikes and biking and stuff is awesome.
I have friends with nice cottages. That's all it is. I go squatting a lot at different places. I get invited to.
Anyone with a big window, so you can do your. But in your last post, you kind of mentioned having to kind of start over. And so, tell me about the journey because you started a podcast. Did that go well? Is it what you expected? Is it what did you mean in that kind of your last bit about having to kind of start over where you are today?
Well, actually, I've been having conversations with people in customer success for so long, and usually the reason, so I just want to provide a bit of context. So that's a great question. Because when people reach out to me, it's usually because I've got a hard time selling my strategy, or there's holes in it. I need a second set of eyes. I don't feel like I'm getting the traction with my peers. Same things that they might come to you about. But there's something else. And so they might buy a coaching package, and we're going to work together for 6 months. But I swear we get 2 months into it, and what really surfaces is, this is not really what I want to do anymore. So I've got an immediate need, because I'm a little anxious about my future, and I'm not worried I'm going to get fired, but I'm just feeling like this doesn't bring me the joy, and I owe it to it doesn't bring me the joy that it used to.
Yeah.
And I owe it to my team, if not anyone else, to bring the kind of passion and energy to it that I used to. And it's just harder and harder to muster it. So these conversations over the 6 months turn out to be, okay, let's get you through this customer success, this friction that you're experiencing. And then what else do you want to do? Is it a podcast? Is it a book? I mean, I'm no life coach or, but I've done a lot of different things, and you mentioned the podcast. So I just share my experience in trying to get started doing other things so that you don't feel like you're so invested in this CS as being the main part of your identity. And the first thing that pops out of your mouth when somebody asks you what you do.
Yeah. No, I love the post that you had, or you shared, and I forgot the gal's name that you were just sharing the last couple of days. I mean, just a really nice way to look at balancing your life, right? I think we've talked about this before, right? I think a lot of people, it's like people ask you what you do, and you're like, oh man, well, I'm a CX professional. Like, well, like, who are you though in life? Like, oh, well, I'm a father and I live in a great place, and I'm mentally balanced and healthy. So trying to figure that out. It was interesting. Why did you choose to kind of go from, or I guess focus on coaching versus maybe like fractional, get in the weeds, roll up your sleeves, and kind of help fix organizations? Why did you feel that coaching was kind of your sweet spot on your?
Well, it's interesting. I would say 6 months or so ago, if you went to my website, it would have said consulting, coaching, and fractional leadership.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're talking about the same things. I don't think those distinctions really mean that much to the people on the other who are looking for help.
Yeah.
So now on my website says coaching, podcast, public speaking. But people come to me for coaching. Some of that is fractional leadership. I do fractional leadership today. And I just don't know that, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Lee, but like, what's the difference between a coach and a fractional leader? Is it, because I work with you an hour a week. Okay, that's not a fractional leader. That's probably more coaching. But is a half a day a week a fractional leader? Is a day a week a fractional leader? So it's more a matter of defining what you need. And I just find that coaching tends to attract people that might need fractional leadership, but wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that people, I don't know about you. I never had anybody reach out to me say, hey, I think I need a fractional leader. It was more like, hey, I've got this problem, and the solution to that might be a day a week, 2 days a week, an hour a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think I'm reading a lot more about people trying to help define what fractional means, like validating. I think if you're in the heart of Silicon Valley, you're kind of probably used to that. I mean, when I was at my last job, I built my whole senior team out of fractional leaders just because I had no money.
Yeah.
So I had to lean on some people that were willing to give me 2 hours a week. Okay, I'll take that because I'm not a marketing professional. So for you, Bob, I can kind of know probably just from following you, but how do you stay motivated and excited about kind of where you are in your journey to kind of present that excitement to your prospects and customers and the people you work with?
It's such a great question, because I've gone through phases where I'm sure we all do, where you're just like, is this still what I want to be doing? Am I still bringing the same energy to this? And believe me, as somebody that has a goal of posting 4 or 5 times a week on LinkedIn, there are many days where I'm like, oh my God, can I just post a picture of my dog and say something cute? Like, I do not have it in me to come up with another insightful, inspiring post about, whatever. So I've been experimenting a little bit more with just writing whatever and sharing ideas on whatever I'm super passionate about, especially with the algorithm, because it just seems to be like I could spend an hour and a half on a post, or I could spend 5 minutes on a post, and they do the same. So I'm sort of done with spending a lot of time on my posts. And that doesn't mean I don't care, and I don't care about my content. It's just that I got to be realistic, and I don't have any control over how many people see it. So, sorry.
I was gonna say, have you seen I've been kind of doing the same, as playing around with just being like, and I'm finding that people are responding more towards the things that tend to not be, I'm like, oh, this post is going to kill it because I'm giving away my secrets and here's the steps, versus like, man, I'm having a hard day today, but also here's what's exciting. And, have you kind of noticed that, or is it going in cycles?
I think it goes in cycles, and the algorithm is changing all the time, right? I tend to think remember the old waterfall days when you'd work for 2.5 years on a release of a new update?
Yes.
That algorithm, I'm sure, isn't like that. Like I swear in the last week, I've noticed changes, but who knows? It's probably changing in real time every day, and it's always keeping us guessing. So
I know they're working on, just from a friend of mine who works with LinkedIn, they are in the process of shifting over. One, video is definitely getting way more traction. So the more backlog of video content, I'm starting to see old content starting to get more likes and comments. I'm like, but that was 4 months ago, but okay. So
you do a great job on video. You do a great job on video, and I've experimented with it. And it just hasn't paid off, considering that I still have to write my post in words, and then I have to record it. But that's probably your investment in doing that, even if it doesn't show necessarily an immediate engagement numbers, it's probably worth the investment.
Well, it's interesting because I started off, 6 months now, which is the longest time I've not been employed. I had my first consulting, like, full program or engagement that I've ever had. And the hardest thing was trying to figure out, how the heck do you value your knowledge and time? Like putting down, like, okay, what's my hourly rate and how much am I worth, was really, it seriously took like a full day of me just going, God, no, that's too much. Okay, I got to give them the deal. I'm always wanting to give everything away for free. So, I know you've kind of gone through that, and I'm sure compared to your first time launching and now you're where you are today, it seems like you are at a place where you're very comfortable with the value you bring. So being able to price that's probably been, you're probably at a good place. What would your recommendation be for maybe others who are trying to get into being either, their time in a new role or time in kind of being their own entrepreneur?
Yeah, you're right. I've been through this a few times. My general guidance might be, come up with a number that you think you're comfortable with and triple it.
Okay. Damn it, I'm way too cheap.
Well, I had, it's just this story that we tell ourselves. And, like, I just automatically would, take my old salary, divide it by 1,800 and add 30% for, benefits or other things. Be like, okay,
wait, can we stop right there? Where are you getting your 1,800? Because it's 2080 in the US.
Yeah. Okay. Well, frankly, I just usually do 2,000 because the math is easier and I can do it in my head, right?
Yeah.
Divide it by 2 and multiply by 1,000. But
okay.
Yeah. But roughly, right? And that's the way I would always do it. And I did have I hired a personal branding coach a couple of years ago, and we talked about rates, and she's like, yeah, you're way too cheap. And I think I needed somebody to tell me that.
Yeah.
So I doubled them. She said, yep, keep going. And then I put them on my website. So you can still see them on my website right now. And it doesn't mean that everybody's paying that. It's just a way of qualifying out people that aren't a real fit for me right now. And I will be flexible, etc. But it was a really powerful exercise for me. I wonder if I would have ever gotten there if I didn't have somebody tell me, no, you're way too cheap. You got to go higher.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I think, transition for, someone who's, always been in the security of being in a corporate job. I've appreciated your posts and what Greg and Whitney are doing, and a couple other people that I follow, is really just this idea of, that security and stuff is definitely going away, in the sense of, it's just, you're not staying in a job for 10 years anymore. Right. It's just the ebb and flow of a business. And then the idea of stepping out to offer your value. And I think you said it really good earlier, is just, you got to be really focused on what problem you're solving.
Yeah. And it's not as easy as I make it sound, because the math that you're doing in your head is the same math that your buyer is doing, right?
Yeah.
If you're selling to a CEO that's making, I don't know, 300 grand a year, and you're going in there at $600 an hour, he's like, I don't make anything close to that.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as simple as I make it sound, but I do think generally, especially as people are starting out, they start low and then it gets harder to increase it. So it's easier to
No,
start
right.
higher and go lower. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always easy to give away value, but then it's so hard. I was like one of the things I always try to coach, CS leaders and stuff is just like give gets, man. You got to give and get. You can't just give, because then you'll never get it back. So you're sitting down, just to kind of close off, because I know you're a busy man and I really appreciate your time, but just, you're sitting down with your younger self, or someone who's wanting to make that first step. What are a couple words of wisdom you'd want to make sure that they kind of think about before they make that step, or encouragement to just do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a theoretical exercise, because I have 2 kids in their early 20s. And so I often think back about what I wish I had heard at their age. Because you're right. This idea, at least for people of our generation, this idea that you're going to have one career, you might have a handful of jobs, but you'll have one career. Yeah. I think my kids will have multiple careers. And so what should I go to school for? And what's my first job going to be? And I just think that maybe a core competency that we all need to build is this idea of reinvention, because even at, I turn 55 next month, I might have 2 careers left in me. I don't know. But that's not a skill set I've ever learned. That's all scary as shit to me. Like I've sort of, this story I have in my head is that I'm good at these core sets of skills and I can help people build revenue and all these things that you and I do for a living. There are 100 other things that we could do with that skill set that we've built up that just are new to us. And so they feel scary. So I guess it would just be that if you're thinking of doing it, you should do it. If you're even asking yourself the question, that's all you need is to start going out and maybe talk to 5 people that you admire, that have done similar things, and just go into that conversation with the sole goal of understanding how they did it and what they had to overcome and what you might be able to learn from it.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah, no, I'm sitting here, listening to your story going, yeah, well, sitting in the same boat, got fired or let go or decided to part ways, whatever. And, the idea that I was definitely sitting there going, oh man, this is going to be easy. I'm going to take my 3 months and build some other things. But the idea of like, man, I could see, one, I just want to help people. And so now how do I monetize that? So then thinking about, whether it's a full-time job or fractional or whatever. But I think it's embracing that change, and it's embracing the uncomfortableness, which is scary. It's that point of like, God, it'd be comfortable to have a job at a corporation with benefits and all that stuff. But then also it's pretty freeing and exciting to be working with a few different people and getting different experiences. It's funny because this is the first time I've been parachuted into a company and been like, okay, go do these things. And I was kind of, one, imposter syndrome, and you're like, oh God, do I know these things? Okay, let's do it. Let's just do like you do if it was your first day of work. Go and get shit done. But then the idea of like, I was thinking, man, they're going to treat me like, and I remember treating some consultants like, oh my God, these guys, they come in with their MBAs and whatever, and they think they know everything. But it was like, it's been so nice, like such an amazing group of people to work with, and they really want help and they really need it. And, and it's the things like you said, like you and I have lived the ability to put great customer focused teams together, break down the barriers, unite the companies around revenue journey and growth. And those are things that people still need help with, even in AI. You're going to need someone in the cockpit who's maybe going to be driving and being able to make those, strategic decisions. So, all right, final thing. what's a book or a song or something you kind of go to when you're just, that you just need a little extra. I mean, I know you pick up your guitar and I mean, God, I wish I had some gifts like that, but what's either a book you would recommend or your favorite song that you just want to share?
It's funny, I have a book, but first I just came back from a cottage, and before we went up, and it was a mix of people that I knew well and a few people that I didn't. And so the host had everybody submit a list of 3 of their favorite songs. And then he made a playlist, and then we listened to that around the campfire and had to guess who we thought.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
So my 3 songs, geez, if I can even remember, highly contextual. In fact, if you asked me that question right now, you might get 3 completely different songs.
Okay.
One was Shine a Light by the Rolling Stones. The second was, oh man, a Canadian band called The Tragically Hip, Blow It High Dough. And the third one it's a song called Angel Dream Number 2 by Tom Petty off Wildflowers. And so I don't know what the moral of this story, because it's a good question, Lee, but God, it changes all the time. And that's what we found is we've got these 3 songs from these 8 people, 24 songs scrambled around. Even the people that submitted them weren't 100% sure that it was the song that they submitted, because that might be a very different song than they would answer with. So great question.
Everybody kind of have a little bit of a story, but did you learn something different about the people you were with based on the songs that they submitted?
I absolutely did. I got into a little bit of hot water because I didn't even know my wife's songs. You would think after being married for 25 years, we would be pretty good at guessing each other's. She knew all mine. I was like 1 for 3 on hers. So that's not a great report card.
Oh, so that was part of it too, is you had to guess who the song was from?
Yeah, well, she was one of the people around the fire, right? So we play a song and say, okay,
I'm going to do that at the next party or something, because that would be really, really fun. Or just road trip, or couples vacation that you go on and stuff. So
it's a lot of stress, because I think people found like, oh my God, 3 favorite songs. I mean, I've been listening to music my whole life. What I want to listen to depends on my mood and what's going on. Yeah. So I think people felt a lot of stress over it, but it was a lot of fun. So
there's so many, and I think you're right. It depends on the mood you're in, right? I mean, mine would be pretty easy, because I'd be gravitating towards either the Cure, the Smith, and some genre in that era.
What you asked, what we learned. I was a massive Smiths fan. Had a jacket in high school with the Smiths across the shoulders. I listened to a lot of Cure, Depeche Mode, New Order. And so that was something that probably we wouldn't have discovered around the fire if not for this game, because we were listening to, cottagey music, country, and, maybe classic rock or something. We wouldn't have discovered that. And as soon as one person said it, there were 3 people around the fire. We were talking about Smith's lyrics and the Cure. And it was something that we actually started listening to before the weekend was over. So
God, I just remember, my buddy Christian from England, and he got me way into the Smiths and the Cure, and we'd go to Depeche Mode and New Order concerts, and then got into had a couple roommates who were way into God, I can't remember some of the bands, but it was definitely more on the darker metal stuff. That didn't ever totally sit with me, but they were fun concerts. I think. And then growing up with my son, he was way into Katy Perry, and so going to those concerts. She puts on a great show, and
I bet.
One of my favorite concerts ever, though, which I didn't think I would we got free tickets, and we're in LA, and a friend of mine's a producer, and he's like, you guys got to go. Keith Urban.
Oh yeah,
that guy. Oh my God, talk about one amazing guitarist. And I didn't really know a lot of the songs, but he was such an amazing performer. And I've never seen this before, and it was a big stadium. It was I don't know, 50, 60,000 people, or LA Coliseum area. And at the end, lights come on, people start leaving. He comes back out on the stage, and he just is like, hey, I just want to thank everybody. Everybody get home safe. just really appreciate you coming out to see my show. And he shook hands, and that was just like such a nice, like genuine, I think, of kind of the person he is. So let me ask you one, if you have time. Do you have a minute?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I'd love to hear your take on kind of the CS, like customer experience, where it is today. This, I've been talking and sharing of this kind of this shift away from being the silo and the dumping ground. I think we've gone back and forth, and really just looking at the evolution of what customer experience is for an organization. I think we've built these organizations on the SaaS model for quite some time now, on the acquisition funnel and the retention funnel, and there's these stages. And I mean, that's all changing, right? You've got pay-per-clicks, kind of an SEO keyword is all shifting. So now it's LLMs and third-party sites and those types of things for people to buy and validate. And then they're kind of they're already building their short list and then hitting the lower part of the funnel right when they're ready to make a decision. But then I've been thinking about the shift or the retention back end of the journey. And it seems like it's needing to change too. Like what we have CS do, what they've always been done, which is early on, I think we could get away with it. Like it was the dumping ground, or it was like, go drive adoption and go make sure we have really good feature understanding for people, but maybe not really a clear understanding of like, what is the actual job to be done that the customer needed and how do we drive that? So I'd love your take on just like, do you see a need to rebuild the kind of post-sales team, blending the teams better? Just what are you kind of seeing?
I think blending the teams better is a good word for it. And I think you and I have both written about this pod idea, right? Where you might have a core group of big customers and you've got a pod that's made up of onboarding, maybe a solution specialist or some sort of technical expert, sales or account manager, 4 or 5 core people. I think the question is, how do you scale that down through to all of the different customers? Because clearly spending most of your time and resources on the first 5% of the customer journey, just going out and finding people and signing a contract with them, and then leaving the rest of it up to a stressed, under-resourced team. And as that mix gets higher, as your company matures and more of it comes from existing customers, it just seems so ass backwards, which is what the pod model is meant to address, except it just doesn't scale. It's just all people. And so you can only justify it when you've got customers that are massive. So I think there's a real disconnect between what leadership teams expect AI can do and what the people on the ground are able to do with AI. Yeah. And so that's a gap we have to fill. But yes, the short answer is I do think that we need to completely rethink it, and that the entire customer journey. And that just takes a very unique leadership team, because say what you will, most chief revenue officers are salespeople. Nobody goes from customer success to the chief revenue officer. They all come from, or 90% of them come from sales. They've been successful doing it one way. It's not that they're not open to other things, but completely re-engineering a customer journey, maybe it doesn't come from sales or CS. Maybe it has to come from product. Maybe it has to come from somebody else that's not as tied to the way we've always done things.
No, I agree. I think, the idea of being a transformational leader or change agent or, a break build kind of mindset. But I think either it's one, product has to start building products that are way more self-service. So that, you got to get away from, we've got a 90-day onboarding and your time to value is going to be 91 day. And, it's like, we got 4 teams, like that heavy lift. I think people's need, I mean, I know like big ERP systems or things like that, but I think the general business, usage of solutions and tool sets has to get easier. I think for that, the tiering of the customer base, right? You've got your low tier, which again, I think the teams and the way that we have to monetize this, and it has to go based on, if you're driving a healthy business, you've got to base it on some margins and you got to put the right teams in place. But I think, I don't know if you found this, but pretty much every team that I've either been in, new job or, the consulting stuff is man, 80-20 rule, just still, it's one, most companies I've been with, they've like had a bad time, like sell to anyone, lower, drop all the prices. Then you have this book of business that's just like, these guys are costing you so much money, and your average order value, it's not even in the ballpark. But then you have this group of customers that you're kind of just half-heartedly throwing QBRs at every once in a while. That is like 80% of your revenue comes from these 70 customers. Like, go get more of them, do less of this other crap, and clean up your books,
And which it's harder depending on where you've gotten your money from, because there's an expectation of net revenue retention of 115, and you can't do that cleanup without a one-time or, a 2 years of some pain to clean those books up, for sure.
Yeah, no, true. That's another insight. All right, Bob. Well, look, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really nice talking to you, and thank you I really appreciate the honesty and direction in the way you're posting. And did you just start a newsletter? Because I just signed up.
Oh, good for you. Yes, it's kind of a long story, but it's been kind of a waiting list for a while, and the wait is almost over. I just want to build up a little bit of a library before I start pushing it out. And I'm trying to figure out how to avoid all of the emails like yours going to junk. So I got to warm up the email list, I think, a little bit before pushing it out to hundreds of people all at once.
Yeah. All right, Bob. Well, Bob, thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing week. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help you or anything that comes up, and appreciate it.
Well, I'm just honored to be asked, Lee. This was awesome. I have a feeling we could do this for 2 hours. So